moving on to the PulseChain ecosystem prices, we are pumping today. It is good to see green and something other than Tangang coins. No offense to them on PulseChain. We are seeing Pulse now at 4 zeros and a 5.6. So we're up over that. I know not everybody, some people get pissed about thinking about sack rate anymore because it's such a distant memory now. But that's been a key number that we've discussed as being 50% off the sack rate. We are up over the number of 5 right now and blasted right through it over the last day. Really just huge pump. We got Pulse up 12% on the day. Pulse X is up 17% on the day. It was up over 20 at one point. It's up to 4 zeros and a 2.5. We got incentive token over $3 again now, pumping the hardest over the last 24 hours at 302. Hex is at 7.5 tenths of a penny, and eHex is at almost 2 tenths of a penny again here. So we're seeing the ecosystem rally. Obviously, if you do hold some of the meme coins that we're talking about here tonight, and is PulseChain just a meme chain? We're going to get to the Brizology tweet that kind of gave us the talking point for this. So shout out to him if he happens to catch us live or on the replay. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but we're seeing the meme coins obviously pump super duper hard with this pump, depending upon which ones you're looking at. But yeah, what do you make of this movie, Ewok? This is kind of out of the blue. Everybody, you can see the sentiment. I mean, this is that whole, you know, we always look at the Wall Street cheat sheet. Everybody seemed to got like the disbelief, like, okay, this is a suckers rally with this. I mean, I do. Like, I literally do. I was reflecting on it today, and I'm like, it's nice to see this right now. But I do genuinely think, because of how far back down we've come and kind of done this double bottom, I don't think we're just going to be like out of the woods right now. It's nice to see this now, and maybe it'll end up confirming that this was a bottom that we saw over the last week. But I don't think we're just going to shoot right out of this range. So what do you make of this move?
I think it's a good test, right? We're going to see if some money does start to come in, and if it gets sold down right away, then we're not ready. I think it's kind of let's see how it plays out. Let's see if any entities are throwing any decent chunks at this to see if we really have bottom. You know what I mean? I think it would be a good test. You know, we've got a lot of, like I said, a lot of positive sentiment right now. Hopefully a lot of things have happened that almost look like bottom signals, and we've been saying it forever. Man, that's a bottom signal, or man, that's a bottom signal. But, you know, then we get this exchange, and, you know, a couple days later, you see a bunch of green candles. Now, I don't really think that has anything to do with it specifically. But it can't hurt, right? How many millions of users does MEXC have? You know, those are new eyes, and they've been advertising it. So, you know, I've seen it on X or Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I've seen a lot of new PulseChain advertisements because I started to follow them just to keep an eye on it and get sentiment. And it's interesting that, you know, a lot of their other posts or whatever about other coins, they don't get a whole lot of engagement. And then you've got this new PulseChain thing, and you're getting 400 or 500 likes and 50, 80 comments. And, you know, it's just a lot of activity. So hopefully some people are noticing. I'd love to see it. And it'll help build the credibility. You know, a couple more exchanges. I know it's going to take some money. But you get on a couple more exchanges, and now that MEXC has listed it, you've got other ones that are looking at it, right? There's other ones out there that are saying, well, they listed it. They're a top 10 exchange. We may think about picking this up too. So, more eyes is better, always better. Again, green candles always help. Let's see how we can hold on to them. And if it continues to go without a bunch of dumpers, then we should know that we've at least reached that level. Again, like I said earlier, that doesn't mean we're not going to have some pullbacks or some consolidation periods where it kind of evens out a little bit. But as long as we don't see major dumps back down to this level and below, you know, I think we're in the clear for a nice little steady rise for a little bit at least.
You know, I do think it's entertaining. So you brought up the MEXC thing, which is something I wanted to talk about too, is like, people are so quick to react, especially in this market, and really with everything in life these days. I mean, that's just how it is. We're in a, you know, react first, find out what the news actually was second, you know. But when the MEXC thing happened, like, you know, it happened Saturday, June 1st, and everybody was like, you know, within hours of it being launched on there, was like, oh yeah, it looks like it really did a lot for the price. Price isn't doing anything and all this stuff. And it's like, first off, I mean, you did see trading back and forth as soon as it happened, which is customary. I think that was the one thing that was probably, you know, you could have expected. But, you know, you have to give some time for these things to shake out. It isn't just like this happens and bam, you see the movement right away. I mean, even when that's why we talk about sell the news events and things like that. Like, there will be an immediate reaction by the market to many things, but you got to let the dust settle to see what the story actually was. Like, give it a couple of weeks and see, okay, what did actually happen there? Because right now, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that this is just because of the MEXC listing or anything like that. I think that there could definitely be a contributing factor. And I agree with you. I followed them on Twitter too and was like checking out that they were advertising for it. So all we can do is give it a month or two and look back at the chart at this time and see, like, well, okay, did that look like it was partially a catalyst? I mean, like, you can look at the chart and really assign any piece of news to it, but I think it's just a caution for people that, like, when something happens, judging it within like hours of it happening isn't really how to look at it.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, it definitely takes time, and oftentimes it's not always one event. It's a combination of a few things. It's several things happening, whether it be a news article or the exchange listing or a new project being talked about, or the combination of all of them, right? You just have a lot of positive things happening, and that definitely can turn around mindset. It can turn around moods. People get more excited again, less likely to sell when you start to see the green candles, because you start to think about, okay, now how many X's can we do, right? For the majority of the people, that's what they start to think about. Not, okay, at this level, I'm getting out, right. Because the history that these assets have in the past, they can do thousands of X. They can. We're not saying that we expect that, but we know the possibility. And it's a combination usually of multiple things that start to lead to a nice little run up.
Yeah.
Because markets become efficient over time.
Exactly. Yeah. As a wise man once said, very well put.
I heard it somewhere. I don't know where. But.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting how that works. But yeah, I want to ask you this final thing on the PulseChain price. And because I just saw somebody tweeting about it, but we haven't seen a nice little pump in Pulse for a while. This is the biggest one we've seen since those times in March, probably. Are we just going to see like the Rock and Rochelle's of the world just bash this right back down? You know what I mean? Like, we've seen all these big Hex OGs, big Hex wallets from the past and stuff, and it's like, oh, it looks like we're going to rally, and then we see it start to come back down. Now, I want to say, for anybody who's like not as familiar with like the Hex ecosystem, the PulseChain ecosystem, the fact that we know who some of the dumpers are or whatever, this is a good thing. We said this a million times. This isn't like Solana or Phantom or Polygon Matic or some of the like Arbitrum Optimism and all that stuff, where there were seed rounds, there were investors that got in way before the thing went live at prices that you never were able to see. It's not like that. We actually are able to see this stuff, mostly on chain. In some cases, literally even know who the wallets are connected to. And we, unlike those other chains, were able to buy the lows of PulseChain. We bought the lows of PulseChain. Maybe not like the nut low, but we bought that range of the lows in PulseChain. Whereas many people on those other tokens, there were token unlocks and stuff like that, where the initial investors were able to dump on your heads. That doesn't happen here. Now, yes, there are people that got in years ago on a fair market trade that benefited really well last cycle that could still dump now. That does happen. But I'm just curious as to your opinion, Ewok. Like, do you think, I think you've conveyed this to me before, but do you think we've gotten some of the big whales out of there now that we may be able to start going up with a little bit of air above us this time?
Absolutely. I think a lot of those people that intended to get out, that were tired of waiting, because you forget, this chain's a year old, but we're 3 years deep into our investment. That
was said on that space we listened to the other day, I think. That KG space.
Yeah. And it's not just a year-old chain. You've got some people that have been here a while that are ready to move on, especially when they're watching gains on other chains. And, that can be frustrating to somebody that was only looking for maybe a 2 or 3x in the first place. So, I think a lot of those people have rinsed themselves. I think that from here on out, you're not going to see the massive amounts of dumping. You're going to see it occasionally, but I don't think it'll be to the level that it was before. So I think we've seen the worst. That doesn't mean that there won't be somebody out there that was involved in, you mentioned Rockham. He was a big investor with Overwatch Partners, so his company was one of the big investors, but they also created a pool. So they had a pool of people that they invited in so that they could capture a lot of that. And I think they were probably the one or two investor, whatever it was. And they got very close to a 2.5x bonus on their money because they participated inside that pool. So a lot of those guys, the 0.5 or even 0.25, of the sacrifice rate was their entry price. So at these levels, I think a lot of those guys have 2x and move on. I think we've seen the worst, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I hope so too. Yeah, I mean, no matter what, we're going to see a little bit of dumping along the way. But as far as like the major ones, yeah, that would be nice to leave that in the past. All right, so I just put that up already, but it's all right. Just you want to screw up the show, you go right ahead and do it.
Hey, I'll do what I want.